Welcome to the last portion for some of you guys for the Coaches Clinic. I know that there have been a lot of discussions that are meaningful and great for your professional growth as coaches this week. There were a lot of great discussions on sportsmanship, which is, and building that culture from the bottom up in your programs. If you need assistance with that, contact me later on. We can come to your schools and help you promote that from the ground up at any time. Specifically this morning for your volleyball rules clinic, I'm new to the office as of a year ago, yesterday. So I've been in the office for a while. I've got 20 years of coaching and teaching background, volleyball, basketball, track and field. So I may be new to directing the sport and working side by side with you guys, but I'm definitely not new to the sport of volleyball. So at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, my contact information will be there. Please do not hesitate to contact me with questions or any assistance or support that you guys need throughout the season. Just some beginning information on the dates that are pertinent for you guys as coaches. Your first day of official practice, Monday, August 13th. I've already had one question about this, and the question was, can I start my practices and have tryouts when school starts? They start the week of the 7th and the 8th. The answer to that is no. You can have your open gyms. You can encourage your players to attend open gyms, whether that's after school or during the school day. You cannot start your official tryouts prior to that August 13th date. If you've neglected to reflect this date in any of your information that you've distributed, please make sure that you adjust that, because believe me, somebody's going to report you, and then we're going to be having a different kind of conversation. Your first season competition game can take place on August 18th. We'll talk later on in the slideshow about alumni and scrimmage matches. Those need to take place before your regular season games, but we'll get to that. Your schedules, rosters, including managers. A lot of you guys neglect to include your managers on your MaxPreps accounts. Please include those. They're part of your team, and if you make it to the state tournament and you want those names reflected for passes and recognition for being your right-hand men and women throughout the season, make sure that they're reflected on there. Monday, November 5th are your district tournaments. Starting the 11th, we will be going through our seating and selection process in our office, and we'll go through those criteria points here shortly. And then our state volleyball tournament this year at Santa Ana Star Center, Rio Rancho High School, and Cleveland High School is Thursday through Saturday, November 15th through 17th. Same venues as in the past, with the adjustment from 6 classes to 5. Eligibility information. Most of you guys probably attended the bylaws session and other sessions where eligibility was discussed. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse on this, but your points of emphasis and the change from previous years is our no Fs policy. That's new. Checking grades at the semester, and no Fs are allowed anymore. Regardless of what that GPA reads, if there's an F, no longer will they be allowed to participate. Does anybody have any questions about the new F policy? No Fs, semester grades? Okay. 8th grade participation, we made the change last year also, that 8th graders can still elect to play up, following all the forms and requirements there. They just have to be in your attendance zone in order to participate at the high school level. So make sure that if you are using those 8th graders, they're in your attendance zone. Otherwise, eligibility will be denied. Match limitations, no changes there either. Varsity players have a match limitation as a team or an individual of 20. There's a reason for the team or an individual. And we'll talk about, those church leagues or club leagues and dual participation within that. Make sure you're counting those individual games towards their match limits at the varsity level. Sub-varsity, 17 games are allowed. So your C team and JV. For middle school teams, if they are exclusively a middle school team and they don't play up to your C team or JV, they have a match limitation of 14 regular season games. Now, our smaller schools use a lot of those 8th graders to make sure they have a C team or a JV. Make sure that they are meeting, not exceeding those match limitations. Those are young kids. You don't want to wear them out too young. So make sure that you're recording those middle school matches as well as those high school matches as well. And you guys do a great job of that, so good job. Individual game limitations. Again, it might be more of a small school issue where you share those freshmen, 8th graders, sophomores. If I'm a small school and I'm using, all 3 teams are traveling together, I've got my junior high, JV, and varsity. If I'm playing an 8th grader up and she's playing an 8th grade team or a middle school team and a JV team, what's the limitation on how many she can play that day? 4. Make sure you are following those guidelines. If she is playing at the varsity level, 5, okay? There needs to be communication between, if you have a different coaching staff at the middle, C team, JV, you know, if they're traveling to tournaments, those guys, just make sure you're communicating that with all of your coaching staff. And 99% of our officials have a clear understanding of this policy, but there are some that tracking because of uniform changes and number changes. Make sure you're communicating with them if you are using those players at multiple levels, just to be professional and give the officials a heads up as well. Anybody have questions on match limitations? Yes, ma'am.
I had an incident last year where I have 2 teams for mid-school, and the other team didn't, but they said they did at first.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? Are they able to play 2 matches that game? Do they count as 2 matches that game? The other team that came to visit us, or would they only be able to play 1 match?
Okay, so the question is, if you did not hear, she traveled with 2 teams, and the team that the school they arrived at only had 1 team. So the question is, can your 2 teams play the 1 team 2 times? And I believe that is allowable. It just counts towards their game limitations, okay? Any others? Okay. Okay, invitational tournaments. I've been a volleyball coach. I know how this works. You want to get as much court time in as possible, right? And what was happening is coaches were kind of fudging on their schedules and only counting invitational tournaments as 1 game towards their match limitations. You need to make sure that you're paying attention to that. I think it's been cleaned up a lot in the last few years. Host school team determine the format of the tournaments. Pool play is typically used, but when you're looking at your match limitations for the season, you know you're getting at least 2, some 3, depending on the format of the tournaments. So make sure that you are reflecting that in your scheduling so that we don't have to go back and say, okay, your match limit was 20, but you played 21 games because at XYZ tournament, you actually had 3 games. So track that. Work with your athletic directors to make sure that you're not either losing out on games or not counting all of the games that you should be. Scrimmages. The second slide showed your start dates for practice and when you can begin your regular season games. The regular season games date is just a minimum standard. If you don't start until a week or 2 after that, that's up to you as a program. There's a small window for you guys to fit in a scrimmage and an alumni game, but those must be played before your first regular season game. We had an incident last year with a team that turned up at a tournament. Day 2 or 3, their opponent did not show up. So to try and help that team out that had traveled, another team just got it, their JV squad got on the court, and they just had, practice time. Unfortunately, that was counted as a scrimmage. We had to kind of give them a slap on the wrist. There was no ill intent. It was making the best out of a pretty bad situation for a team that traveled. But however, our bylaws state that that's a scrimmage. And unfortunately, we had to have a discussion with that coach. And it was a learning opportunity for everybody involved. But make sure those alumni and those scrimmage matches are taken care of early in the season. Any questions on those? Okay, dual participation. How you regulate your team and your programs is up to you. However, if you are a coach that allows dual participation with club or other activities outside of your school program, whether it's a church league You know, there's some Rotary Club leagues, et cetera. Those count towards those individual players' match limitations. So how you do that is up to you. If it was me coaching, you know, you got injury possibilities and those kinds of things too, but that's up to you to regulate. Just make sure they don't go over their match limitations. MaxPreps. We do have somebody in our office that helps you guys understand and navigate through and set up your accounts through MaxPreps. I think there's enough knowledge out there now that you're able to navigate through those and set up your user accounts, et cetera. But MaxPreps is the main way that we're able to communicate with what are your schedules? What was the match score? What does your roster look like? Get your team photo. Have all of those data points entered so that we can get a quick look, you know, and if I'm a coach scouting and I want to go watch a team across town, or maybe I'm visiting family 2 hours away and I can go get a scout in, you know, make sure that these are up to date so that it reflects where your teams are at, how they are doing record-wise, et cetera. Libero uniforms. There are a lot of questions about this, and I wish that I had inserted a slide to show a very recent question that I had regarding a Libero uniform, okay? Contrasting doesn't mean I have charcoal gray and a light gray. They're both gray. Contrasting means black and white, or a dark dominant color and a very light color, okay? Does anybody have questions about Libero uniforms? I know some of you guys are on a rotation system and understand this very well, but then some of our vendors don't understand the rule very well also, so it's easy to get misinformation from them when they send you the proofs and those kinds of things. If you have any questions, contact me. Send me an email with the proof. Have the vendor that you're using for your uniforms contact our office, and we can always refer them to the rule book and why it will or will not be a legal uniform. Coaching licensure. As head coaches, you've gone through the ranks, you understand the requirements. You're going to need to make sure that you're working with your assistants, your JV coaches, your junior high coaches who are typically really new to the game. They may not understand all of the requirements that the PED puts forth for coaching licensure. It's a process, and it does take some time, so mentor them through that. The fundamentals of coaching and the first aid course are required for level 1 coaches. All of you as coaches are required to take the concussion management course as well. All of your players, before the first day of practice, this isn't new, this is from last year, must take that concussion course. Print that certificate off, and then you keep that as a record. Depending on your athletic director and district policies, you'll either keep that at the program level and certify to your athletic director, or send it to your athletic director and they keep those records. That's going to be an individual district level decision. Questions on coaching licensure and the concussion course? Concussion law, these are, again, as I said, these are the same. There's been no changes. This is not something that the NMAA has mandated to you. It's for the safety and protection of our students. Yes, concussions can happen in volleyball. It's not a contact sport, but it is a sport. You can get hit in the head with a ball. You can have collisions with kids hustling on the court, getting after a ball. So please make sure that you are following the return to play guidelines, that you are following the recommendations of your trainers, et cetera, on your campus. District tournaments. Each team is limited to 14 uniformed members. That hasn't changed as well. District sites are going to be set up by your district chairperson through your athletic directors. Some people have the same schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is that meets the needs of your district, and that doesn't change. Make sure you're communicating with your athletic directors to make sure that you understand what that week is going to look like for you. With the shift in calendars this year, you know, sometimes it's not just it's not always the third week in October or whatever that date is that you play that championship game. So make sure that you're communicating and using those calendars as a point of reference. Out-of-season coaching. For those of you that attended the bylaws session that Sally spoke at yesterday morning, the board of directors has just passed a new bylaw on undue influence. That comes a lot to our out-of-season coaching. If you are coaching during the regular season, your school team and then club teams on the off season, you have to be very aware that how you are interacting with those players on your club team is not unduly influencing them to transfer, attend your school, talk to other players to attend your school, and be part of your programs. You are limited outside of your regular season to 7.5 hours. So if you have an athletic PE class, those hours count towards that 7.5. And it's not a per coach, so you can't say, well, I'm the head coach, I'm going to work with them for my 7.5 hours. Now, JV coach, you get your 7.5 hours. It is as a whole throughout the course of each week. So make sure that the kids need some downtime also. They need that break. Don't overwork your athletes. Does anybody have any questions on out of season? So seating and selection. This is a hot topic. Maybe not as much now, but come November, we're going to be getting emails and phone calls, and you're going to advocate for yourself and say, but my team was so much better than this team, and why did they make it in and I didn't make it in? I'll be honest with you. Before I worked in the office a year ago, I did not clearly, I watched the videos that are available, and I did not clearly understand how data-driven the system truly is. It is a data-driven system. It does not take opinion. We don't sit in the office and say, I think so-and-so should go and so-and-so should sit. The 6 criteria points finish in regular district play. So if you're a district champ, are you going to state? Yes, okay. Head-to-head contests. So if we have a tie between 2 teams and Team A beat Team B, Team A is going to be seated higher than Team B. So the head-to-head record is a huge point there. Wins against district champs regardless of class. Because we are so sparsely populated, we have a lot of teams that play outside of their classification level. So if I'm a 1A team and I traveled to Capitan, we're not in the same classification anymore. If I beat their district, they are district champ and I beat them, that's a quality win when it comes to seating and selection. So regardless of whether or not they are a district champ in the state of New Mexico, Oklahoma, Colorado, Texas, Arizona, we check their records through MaxPreps as well, and if they're a district champ outside of the state, then that still counts as a quality win. And you get, pardon me? Yes, you can go up or down, it's sliding, regardless. That's a good question. The question was, we're videotaping this, so the question was, if you beat a classification below your current classification, does that count as a quality win as well? And the answer is yes. That's a good question, Brian. Okay, overall record. So if you're 18-2, you're going to be seated ahead of somebody who is 5-15. That just is a little bit self-explanatory. MaxPreps Freeman ranking. So a lot of people think that's all we go by with the seating and selection. You're going to have, it's going to change weekly sometimes, but you're going to have clearly delineated front runners. But that doesn't mean that just because they're number 1 or number 2 on MaxPreps, that's how it's going to work out in the wash. Member school coaches input. All head coaches, you understand that there's a form submitted online, and for the new ones that are in the room right now, there's a submission that occurs online where you get to have an opinion as a head coach and say, here's where I think the teams in my classification wound up, regardless of what their record looks like or MaxPreps looks like. They're tough and maybe their record just doesn't reflect that. We still have a point system and a data system used based on your input, and then that data is put into the criteria system. Yes?
Case in point, Volcano Vista for many years
And that's unfortunate because it truly is unfortunate. The question was, sometimes the win-loss record and those criteria points are not reflected in how the seeding shakes out at the end prior to state. And that's correct. That's a flaw with the system because the strength of schedule is reflected minimally within the MaxPreps rankings. But you've got a tough district, and unfortunately, some of those schools don't make it. And that's where the win-loss record kind of gets them in the end. So, yes, sir.
So my question is, who makes up this committee, and is the committee aware of districts and APS versus non-APS? Because the APS, we get two less matches, which will then factor into a lot of these, give us less disadvantage to a lot of these factors. We only get 18 where everyone else gets 20 because of the.
It's still, a percentage is still used, so the win-loss percentage is used for that. So if you've won 16 of those 18, I know that some districts have limitations. There are some schools that are committed to, you can play 20 games, we're going to send you to schools around the state, we're going to make sure that your schedule is full. And there's other districts, unfortunately, where budget becomes an issue and they say, we just can't afford to send you. And that's unfortunate. Hopefully in that situation, the other criteria points allow for that not to be an issue. The committee is the personnel in our office. We take the data points and use that to evaluate where we're at.
So is there somebody, I don't know who the committee is, but is there somebody with volleyball knowledge that is aware of what is happening in the districts around the
Yes,
state
sir.
as far as what is it?
Yes, sir.
So it's not non-volleyball.
Correct.
See us.
Correct. Everybody in our office has a knowledge of each of the sports. Some is more in depth. Some is needing not needing improvement, but not as strong as others. And we definitely collaborate and work together to make sure that if there is a question, that we're sharing that information with one another. Any other questions on seeding and selection? Okay, state championships. Again, at Santa Ana Star, Rio Rancho, and Cleveland High School. So for your district tournaments, you have 14 rostered players. And for state, you've got 14 rostered players. They do not have to be the same 14 once you hit state. You could have injury, maybe somebody who moved up from JV didn't work out so well. There is a deadline for making sure that your 14 uniformed players for the state tournament are reflected in MaxPreps so that that's what you show up with and that's what's in the program. The worst thing you can do as a coach is not have a kid in MaxPreps and they show up to state and grandma's in the stands saying, where's my kid in the program? They're proud of that. And the student athletes need that recognition as well. So make sure you're reflecting those. So in addition to your 14 players, between coaches, managers, trainer, etc., you are limited to 20 members on your bench. We have teams that come in with 23, 24 sometimes, and we have to ask a few of those, to shuffle around and just step out for a while. So keep it to our 20. That's for safety reasons, as well as just trying to make sure that we're maintaining space for the players. Pink jerseys may only be worn during pool play. Make sure that when you hit regular bracket play, that you were in your standard uniforms. We will have the state schedule out probably in about a week or two for you guys to grab off of the sport-specific page. A lot of you guys do your breast cancer awareness matches in October. Just please be aware that if you're calling it a Dig Pink game, that is through the Side Out Foundation. You need to partner with them, and there is a reporting system that they have, and you need to report your earnings. A lot of people have gone away with that, and they just call it their breast cancer awareness, or they find somebody to sponsor in the local community, et cetera, and that's fine. Just make sure that your jerseys, sometimes they're last minute, et cetera, make sure that they at least have numbers on the back and communicate with your officials. And whoever's traveling to your home site venue, that you will be having this match. A lot of times the officials want to show up with their pink gear as well. So make sure that you're doing a good job communicating. Verification of equipment and sportsmanship regulations. By being here, you're all acknowledging that you are properly maintaining equipment, that you are properly training, that you are properly instructing, and there with good intent to make sure that your players are minimizing risk and meeting the minimum requirements set forth by our office in the NFHS. So your attendance signatures here are verifying that you are meeting those standards. Does anybody have any equipment questions or any questions along that line? Nora here? Compete with class. In the Coaches and Coffee with Coach Mons yesterday, this was a focus, and I appreciate that because I think we've seen a shift around our state with not our student athletes, but with those folks in the stands. And building a culture within your program, whether you're a veteran coach or a new coach at the middle school level, you've got to start young with these kids. You don't just get respect because you're the head coach or you're the coach. You've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Building that level of respect and integrity and responsibility from the ground up is important. Our office started an initiative about 4 years ago where we started presenting to schools, middle school, high school, charter school, et cetera, for competing with class. We talk about leadership, what it means to be part of a team, winning with grace, losing with grace, modeling good behaviors. We've done the presentation to middle school students. We've done presentations to middle school parents. As a liaison to our office, not only for volleyball, but for these presentations, if you need me to come to your school, help you present to parents, make sure that we are good to go, let me know. Email me. My goal is to get to each of your schools eventually. Last year I was able to be at 44 schools and present to 44 different schools, and that's my goal again this year. I'm tired though, before we even start the school year. But I want to help you guys do your jobs and make sure that you are supported. Coaching is hard. And the last thing we want you to do as a new coach is to say, this was too hard, the parents were crazy, and I don't think I've got it in me. So as veteran coaches that are in here, please mentor those younger coaches. You've got to help them learn how to be strong and say no, how to let those kids learn how to fail and get better because of it, not to quit just because they failed. And I can't remember which session it was in, maybe the open panel at the beginning of the clinic. Somebody made a great point about the learning opportunities with failure and how we have a whole society of kids right now who, through us entitling them, it's not just their fault, you know, we've given them those participation trophies because we don't want to make anybody mad. It's okay to say no to your players. It's okay to say no to the parents. If you want to close practice because you don't want Jim, Jane, and Sandy in your practice heckling their own kid. So work with your athletic directors. Make sure that you create that culture of positive learning for those kids because, and I'm looking at my old coach right here, I get to introduce him as a distinguished coach at the awards ceremony next. If you don't start at a young age and make sure that you're working with parents, then it's going to be really hard to backtrack and do that later. So just make sure that you guys are working together. Neighboring districts as well. Again, make sure you contact me if you'd like me to come to your school. My cell number is the 740 number. If you text me, please include your name in school. As I'm transitioning into taking over this sport, I'm working a lot with Alyssa. There are a lot of new names and faces. I see a lot of people that I know here, but there are a lot of you that I don't know. And if I get your name wrong, I apologize right now, but I'm going to learn, and I want to work with you. So if you do text me or call me, make sure you include your name and your school so that I can include that with our information, okay, and in my responses to you. Any other questions before I hand it off to Nora Carter?
Do you want to just tell everybody about the new classification and the private class?
Yeah, the question was to clarify any questions on classification and alignment. So this year we're shifting into 5 classes. That means that some of our big schools moved down, some of our small schools moved up, and change can be uncomfortable sometimes. So you should communicate with your athletic directors to make sure that you know, if you don't know, who your district schools are. Do you have a complete district schedule? What are your district tournament brackets? Because now that's going to look different. So your district chairs should have already met. They should have already scheduled those things. Does anybody have any questions about classification and alignment? The format of the tournament is going to be the same, but instead of 6 classifications, it's 5.
All right, so just for your own edification, this year the rule book, this is, I think, the 3rd year in a row that it's going to be able to be put on your mobile device. I know y'all probably don't care as much as we do, the officials, but you can actually carry the rule book around with you. I would be just much happier if y'all would just take the time to crack it open every now and then and read a little bit of it. Okay, that's all I ask. Just be familiar, you know, before you start giving us but that's not the rule. Just have somebody, an assistant or somebody, look it up right quick. Oh, it is? Okay, thank you. Never mind. Okay? All right. It's got bookmarks now. You guys can do all kinds of things with it. You all know NFHS has got so many more things for us now that we can get online, including all types of videos on ball handling for the officials. There's all kinds of things for when you're running a practice, different exercises, stuff that you guys can do. So I tell all of you, take advantage of it. Just if you're a new, especially if you're a new coach, just go in it, scroll through it, look around in it a little bit. Okay, I believe Tammy, is she still in the room? Oh, there you are. Did you go over this with them on how to get an accommodation? No. Okay, so let's look at it real quickly. This is something, we talk about this every year. In the event that you have a player who needs something special. We've had situations in the past where a young lady had cancer and all her hair fell out in chemo, so she wanted to wear a scarf on her head. That's typically an illegal piece of equipment. We don't allow kids to come out wearing things that could fall off during a game and injure someone else. You know that you have a player, she's really particular about it, and you think, okay, I'm going to go for an accommodation. So you let your school know you want an accommodation. Then the school sends in a request to the state association, NMAA. Comes to NMAA, there's a notice and opportunity to be heard. Sometimes they might not need you to come in unless it's something that's really doesn't quite make sense, and then they may ask you to come in person. Then what they'll do, they review it, they'll provide you with written documentation on the answer. Typically if it's a yes, especially if it's a yes, they'll give you a letter for you to take around to all the appropriate projects, all the appropriate games and stuff that you have. So when the referee walks up to you and says, what's with number 14 and the scarf? You just show them the letter. So coaches, make sure you have the letter with you when you go to each match that you have, okay? Everybody understand that process? Pretty easy going, and it's pretty simple. Yes.
I've gotten calls where like, we need this right here. She doesn't hear English, she needs to play with it. You can't do anything at that point.
Right.
Okay, so just make sure you foresee it, make sure you look at your players way before your matches, so you can get that letter from us and there's no question.
I need to reiterate that. I've actually had coaches say, can we call Alyssa right now? No. Okay. So really, and I know sometimes you don't know that you have a special situation until your player is there. But these are accommodations when you realize well ahead of time. What's another one when you have a young lady you don't have a uniform that fits her? Okay, you know you have that girl. Okay, before the season starts, you made her go through tryouts. Okay, so get the accommodation in there that she's going to be dressed like this. Okay, all righty. Migraines. Mm-hmm.
Is that part of?
That's a special accommodation. You know, I believe there was a young lady out of Moriarty or something that had one in her ear that was for migraine headaches. So anytime, look at your players. If they have anything on to you that doesn't look like normal, what's normal? A uniform, some shorts, and some socks and some tennis shoes. There you have it. That's what we're looking for. Cool. I'm not going to talk, we'll talk about the uniform in a moment, but basically anytime they have something different on, you know, if it's not a sweatband, if it's something else out of the ordinary, if it's not a sleeve, they can wear sliding sleeve, okay? So you look around, look at your girls every now and then. I know everybody's afraid now, but come on, you can do this. Yes?
So we have a junior girl that has diabetes, and she has to wear one of those boxes on her leg. And if she keeps it wrapped and taped, is that?
Get a letter. Let Tammy know about it and we'll get you a letter. Yes, we've had pumps, insulin pumps on people before, all types of things. So that's what I'm saying. Look at your players and try to put them in a situation where it's going to be as little embarrassment for them as possible. Nothing's worse than, you already know you're lugging out there with something growing out of your body. So try to take care of those things so that they can go out there and just warm up with the rest of the girls and they can just be one of the team. Okay? Don't have the referee have to take them by the elbow and lead them over. All right. Restricted play. This is a little change from last year, okay? A player cannot gain advantage by playing the ball while contacting an obstacle wall or a team member. Coaches, you know how they run over to the bench and they're trying to play that ball off and you put your hands up to help stop them? You can't do that anymore. Okay? It's called let them careen. Let them careen. Oh, you can just, you can't assist them. Now, can you catch them? Yes. Okay. But as they're playing the ball, you can't be helping them. Now, I know helping to some of y'all means get up and move the chairs out the way. No, come on. Now, think, we don't usually let them go past. There's a black line in front of many of your benches. We don't let them go past that black line, okay? So be prepared, as aggressive as you want your kids to be. We want them to be able to go to school the next day. Okay, keep them safe, think safety, but they can't get any advantage from that, okay? Team members are going to be defined as, if it's coach, managers, athletic trainers, anybody that's on your bench, okay? They're team members and players. Okay, and what the signal you'll see if we see a coach put their hand out and it stops her from going and thinking, and then she sets the ball, then you'll see us go like that. It's an illegal hit. This, by the way, does not mean lift. It means illegal contact. Okay?
I got a question about
Yes.
If a player contacts the ball, but then contacts the net on the outside of the antenna, is that considered a net?
No.
Okay, so anything from outside the antenna should be called a net, right?
Unless it's egregious. In other words, if they careen into the net outside the antenna and they're hanging on it and the net goes down 4 inches in the middle, and then your setter had just finished setting the middle hitter, gift, boom, we're going to call that a net. So it can't be to an advantage, okay? And that's in the official's judgment. So don't think they don't know the rule. If they see that she's still in the net, holding on net, the net has been or it's going like this, then they'll go, net.
I mean, it is the same thing with the line outside the court, right?
Correct. If they cross the center line outside the sideline, then that's okay.
You will probably do that.
Yes, we will. Okay? Okay, coaches, where are you supposed to be standing? Do all y'all know where you're supposed to be standing? Do you know where you're supposed to be standing during play? Okay. Be closer to the bench than you are to the sideline. Okay? Back up. This is what if you see us do this, let's say this is the court over here, and you're standing right, this is the sideline, and you're standing right there, if you see us go. If we acknowledge and address certain things, we have to penalize you. So sometimes that's why you'll see us give you the look. Okay? Y'all know the look, you know this, you know what this means. Sit down. To the players on the bench, coach. When all your girls are standing up watching the game, this isn't club, this is high school. So where are your players supposed to be? On the bench. Okay, so if you stand up and you look up and your girls are standing next to you, hint, hint. Now, spontaneous reaction, okay? Other than that, you are supposed to be no closer than 6 feet to the sideline during a live ball. During a dead ball, coach, you can walk out there and talk to them, but don't stay there. Okay? The minute I see your lips stop moving, I think you're done. Start backing up. If you're there and I've already got my arm up and I'm ready to beckon, you need to be talking quicker and backing up. Okay? We good? You know where you're supposed to be, right? Okay? Second referee's responsibilities. Now, the second referee is going to be watching you for that. You really don't want the first referee to address it across the court. If the first referee across the court has to address that you're standing next to the sideline, you're probably going to get a delay. Okay? So when the second referee goes, Coach, don't ignore him. Yes. Okay? Okay. Okay. When multiple courts are in use, this really doesn't happen for us. This is basically for when there are some tournaments. They're not going to have the horn at the table. You know how you have the score with the horn on it? They want the referees to use their whistle so the kids don't get confused. This kind of makes me laugh because the kids don't get confused, so let's just move on. So the second referee will end the timeouts and intervals between sets with a long whistle instead of the horn. The kids are pretty used to playing on multiple courts, being around them. They kind of learn whose whistle is whose, okay? So, but what it's just saying is, in order to help with the confusion, we're going to use the referee's whistle instead of the actual horn that's on the scorer's table, okay? If you're at your school and you're the only court going, what are we going to use? The horn. All right. Okay. When the play results in a replay, no request for Libero replacements, nothing can happen when it's a replay, except for the exception of an injury, okay? So don't send your sub up to sub in, and we've already requested a replay. We've got out that we're going to do a replay. Don't ask for a timeout. Nothing else can happen, okay? So no request for Libero substitution or timeouts are allowed. They are not allowed, right? You all are pretty good about that. Most of you know this, and some of you are really fast learners, so that's good. In the event of an injury, we may have to do, I mean, if she cannot continue to play, are we going to have a sub or have something happen? Absolutely, okay? You just resting your hand, or you got a question, Robbie? Okay. Okay. This slide, I love it. Most of you coaches are pretty good at when you have an injury. Some of you walk up to me and go, what are my options? Okay. So understanding that, if we see you standing there and you're working with your kid and then you stand up and you start looking at us with that blank look, referees aren't supposed to coach. We will come up and go, okay, here's your 3 options. You can do the following. And then we're like, and I need a decision now. So if the referee normally will first ask you, I need a decision. If you look at them blank, they'll go, and these are your options. Okay? Our goal is to get the game back on track. Let's get it going again. So sometimes they'll help you. So if you have an injured player, you're going to have timeout for her injury, see if she can get up, walk it off. If there's a bone sticking out, that's a little different. If her foot is now going this way instead of that way, that's a problem, okay? Sometimes we will suspend all of that and wait until the paramedics get there to take care of the girl, okay? So, but your choices usually are, you can replace them. First thing you're going to do is you can substitute for an injured player, okay? If she's in and there's a Libero replacement, do another Libero replacement to use her, okay? It's when you have to take them out. If she has to come out of that match and there's no subs for her, or you've used all your subs and you have an exceptional sub, then she can't come back in. So that's the last thing you want to do, okay? Any questions about what to do during a... Excellent. Okay, unnecessary delay, what's the sign for it? Ooh, I didn't bring my cards, shoot. Okay? We try to do a lot of deny. So officials aren't being rude to you if they tell you and you're asking for something, they go like that. They're trying to put off giving you a card. They tell you this, or they go, you ask for a timeout and they're like I've done to a coach before. I want a timeout. Nora, okay then. You call my name, you're really getting it. All righty, timeout, stand. Okay, so be aware that we're trying to help you sometimes in the game by, it's not that we're ignoring you, we're trying to get you to understand, Sometimes a referee looks at you and go, but I want a sub. You don't hit anymore. Go. All right? Okay. In between sets, can you use the court to warm up girls who haven't played? Any subs? Yes, your side. All right? So can you go on and hit? No. No, 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 no. Don't do that. You can use your side of the court in between sets, okay? So no hitting. Balls may not be hit over the net. Let me tell you one of the big reasons they don't want this. Guess when most concussions occur? Warm up and in between sets. You know how it is, somebody's walking along minding their own business. Sarah, you okay? What? Okay, it's when you're not expecting it. You know, I try to go through whole seasons. I was all excited. I'd done like 10 years without getting hit with a ball. The minute I told somebody, I turned around, boom! On the side of my head, I was like, oh dear. And I was walking to a match. A ball came off of another court and hit me as I was walking by. I went to go get the score sheet. And I got back, and they were thinking, did you have a concussion? And I was like, so I told my partner, I'm only going to call ball handling. You have to do everything else. So it's all I can do to concentrate on where they are. And it was halfway through the first set, and I realized that Libero's in the wrong shirt. And usually that's stuff we pick up right away. So watch your players. If somebody does get hit in their head, don't just look at them and go, you okay? What are they going to say? Yes. I'm fine. It's the same thing like when they're doing lines. This is a natural action. This is a natural motion. This isn't. So they're going to always do that and go, do you really mean that? It was out. Okay. Okay? Same thing when you ask them, are you okay? Can you go on? I'm tough. I'm an athlete. Yes. I'm over here, hon. I'm over here. Look at me. So talk to them a little bit. I know everybody wants to win. Don't ever want to win so badly that you're going to let a player play who shouldn't be out there, who should probably take a rest. It is just a game. Okay? It's all about their education and their safety. You see what unnecessary delay is? Appropriate card on the wrist. Okay, editorial changes. These, you know, these are really not meaningful to you unless you have the rest of the context around it. Okay, in short, a disqualified individual violates conduct rules and use of rule for following disqualification. So when you're disqualified, do you have to leave? Now, do kids have to leave? It depends on where can they go. Okay, if you have a school and there is nowhere else for them to go, we may have them go sit at the end of the bench. We may have them go sit at the far end of a bleacher where they can still be supervised. So don't always be thinking we're going to send the kid out of the gym if there's no adult or someone supervising to go with them. If their parents there and says, can I take them home, that's up to you, coach. But when they've been disqualified, they got to go. Okay? How are we doing on time? Wiz? I could do that. Okay. Okay, you're going to hear us using double whistles. Some of these things that are in here, these changes, we already do it anyway. We double whistle when you want to sub, those types of things, timeouts, okay? When we end it, we'll do tweet, tweet, a real long one to let you know it's over. I wish now they've got, what I like that they're doing is we're having a warning timeout coming back in. A lot of coaches have said they would like that back. When you hear that soft tweet, tweet, that's us telling you got 15 seconds. So start to wrap it up. Talk fast to your girls. Y'all know you can't work a miracle in that huddle, but do what you can. Do what you can, you know, but start to wrap it up, okay? When you hear the tweet, tweet, all righty? What we want to see is at the end of the timeout, the girls are either on the court ready to play or that we see them going and they're walking back to get to their positions, all right? And now that we've got this little warning, tweet, tweet, we really want you all to follow that. So you must be cognizant of when you hear that tweet, tweet, you got to start wrapping it up. Okay. This is new for high school. In short, how many of you have heard of the term a ghost player? Oh my goodness. Raise your hand if you've heard of ghost. Whew, I feel better. Okay. So, and because it's new to high school, many of you may not have now that I think about it. But what it is after the match begins, do you have to start with 6 players? Yes. It used to be you had to play the whole time with 6 players. Now they're saying you can play with fewer than 6 players, okay? But every time that girl's slot comes around to serve, it's going to be a point for the opponent. Everybody get that? So what you may hear, the scorer yell out, "Ghost!" Okay? The scorer will keep track of, and the refs do, where that player should be. So it still means, you see where it says they have a vacant spot? Does this have a pointer on it? I was just hoping. Okay, so like you can see on the board here, there's a vacant, and then she keeps rotating and that vacant slot stays open. So there will be a time when you only have 2 players in the front row. That doesn't mean somebody from the back row can come up and fill in for a while. Okay? We will remember where that person is supposed to be. So when they get in serve receive, you still have to be in your place. I had sorry to say, I had a referee ask me, "Well, can they overlap?" Well, no, you can't overlap with the ghost. She's not there. But you can have a situation where you could have a back row attack or back row violation because somebody got all excited. Typically what happens is, the person's missing and somebody from the back row turns around and blocks the ball and then tries not to look at us. And they roam around in the front row for a little while, then they go back to their position. What's the one thing we can call late? Back row violations. Okay, I can be ready to beckon for the ball and go, "I knew you were back row. Tweet, we're going over here." I knew it. Okay. But some of y'all train them well. Hide. Hang out in the front row for a while. All right. A point will be awarded. Point in the ball, rally point. Okay, every time that ghost goes back to play, then what you'll do is you'll see them roll the ball over, and you'll see the other team roll the ball back to you. And you should see a point go up on the board. Okay? I've had it happen probably 3 times in my career. That was match point. The coaches were trying desperately to get those points in, and because they knew the very next one, their next player was ghost. And sure enough, when they rolled over, I was like, "Okay, gang, here we go. Let's all shake hands." Okay? All right. It remains open through all rotations, so everybody will be tracking it. Points of emphasis. This is all about us, officials. Please check your stand. Last year, I think we had 3 referees fall. Especially for those of you that have the ones that attach to the pole. If you get up and it's wobbling, come on, call somebody. Home Depot, somebody, get them to put something on there to make that steady, make it still, okay? We're all worried about the kids' safety. Every now and then, throw a thought our way, okay? Might the referee fall out of there? Okay, sometimes you got to do something to make it a little safer, get it to attach a little bit better, all right? And guess what? Most referees tend to weigh much more than all your kids. So we get up there, it's a bit of a difference. Okay? So check the stand for us. The first referee will walk over and check it. Also, that includes padding, all right? So I had a match that was the first time for a school to have a home game ever. It's a new school. And they had no padding whatsoever. We were doing the towel thing. Duct tape and towels is a beautiful thing when you need it. But I told them, look for these. They came with this net. Halfway through the match, the janitor walks out. Is this them? They were still in the plastic, all nice and wrapped up. I'm like, okay. So check your equipment for us. Warm-up safety, growing number of concussions reported. This is when a lot of them occur, as we said before. So examine your pregame protocols. Some things you want to consider when establishing some of the best practices at your facility, at your school, are, do we have the space? The shared court time. Now, shared court time, when does that occur? Before we do the captain's meeting and both teams are peppering or passing back and forth with each other on their side of the net. Still, no balls are going across the net, okay? That never happens in high school. We don't have them hitting at the same time, right? Okay, those assisting with warm-ups, okay? Make sure everybody's familiar. Can you have parents down there on the court helping? Why can't we? They are just not covered, okay? There's liabilities with every school. You're covered, I'm covered, the kids are covered. Uncle Joe, my abuela, no, okay? So make sure they're not out there. Can you have varsity members help with the warm-up for JV? Yes, they're covered. But they've got to be dressed appropriately. Can't be out there barefooted. People have them all unplugged. We need them to be able to hear a ball whizzing toward them when everybody's going, heads! Huh? Okay? Make sure they don't have their earphones and things in. Warm-up safety. This is basically for us about treating line judges. Know that they're going to be part of the crew. The line judges tend to come from the host school, the home team, okay? Which makes me laugh when your line judges make a bad call and you look at me and I go, that's your kids. Okay, so I did that one coach, and I'm like, And so, for unsporting behavior by spectators, event management should be instructed to resolve that situation. Now, can a coach request that we swap a line judge out? Yes. Do we have to abide with the request? No. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we know that you may be really upset. We're aware that she's made 2 controversial calls, possibly. We know that. What we're gauging is, how's this going to affect this child? Read my lips. How's this going to affect this child snatching her out and putting somebody else in? Is this going to mess with her? Sometimes. You've seen kids walk off, line judges walk off and start crying. If you make a line judge cry, you and I are going to talk, okay? All right? We will, that's why we have the ability to overrule them. Okay, we want them to learn and grow and develop some leadership skills themselves. And so when they really make a bad one, we'll go, that almost, no. Okay, and we'll change the call, okay? Unsporting conduct. You've heard probably on the news, they're talking about it a lot. NMAA has talked about it. They're really looking at the behavior of the fans a lot now too. And unfortunately, your teams can start to have to pay for bad fan behavior. Who's probably one person who can get on the fans to calm down? The head coach, okay? I've been at college matches where I've seen the head coach get up and go get the microphone. It was the year, this has been about 10, 15 years ago, when you were allowed to double the first ball going over. Everybody knew but the fans. So they were just roasting me. I think I was at Texas Tech. And they were like, oh my God, you let that go and then you called that next one? I mean, they were just really upset about it. Finally, the coach got up and went over and said, we've had a rule change this year. You're now allowed to double the ball on the first contact. And the whole arena got quiet. And all of a sudden I heard this, oh, sorry. From the top. The score was like 8-3, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a long match if I have to hear this whole match. Sorry. Oh my God, you're blind, you're horrible. Okay. So some of the courses that are available online, okay? There's officiating courses for us. One of the things we're excited about, they've got this video's been out for a while, ball handling. You all can view this too. I know some of you have been coaching a long time. This game is dynamic, it is not static. So you all know, I've played for years, and if we would have done the type of tip these girls use now back in the day, oh my God, that was so not allowed. That was just not allowed. I have coaches who've been away from the game for 10 years. They come back and they're like, you guys let that go? You let this go? Yes, the game changes. So you need to make sure you are aware of what the new ball handling rules look like. What's legal and what isn't legal. It used to be whenever the ball came off the block and the player underwent like that, we automatically called illegal contact, right? No, now we look for, is she lifting the ball or is the ball playing her? If she's just got her arms out, then that's fine. If it lays there and she walks around with it, that's another story. But we are not going to call balls that automatically come off the block and land in the player's arms. Okay, she has to actually hold it for a while. It has to be some kind of contact. Things like that. So some of you that coach for a long time, some of you that coach in the smaller school areas are used to having calls be much, much tighter. They want this game to be opened up to be played more. They want to see more spectacular plays. They'd love to see volleyball become what they think of as some entertainment for a family to go to. Right now, who tends to go to the games? The parents, friends of the family. They want some time, that's why they have that intermission between sets 2 and 3, so you can do promotions and things like that, okay? They want it to be a destination sport where people purposely get up and decide, let's go. Let's go to the volleyball game. If we keep stopping and girls run and get the ball, she goes like that, and we go, oh, too bad. No. Great play, okay? That's it. Any questions, people?
What's the rule for setting now? It's getting looser and looser. Is it, from officiating, from your perspective, the smaller schools becoming a small school, our refs can be way behind. They're still not in the middle, really, which is they call it still.
They should not do that, but we'll work on that.
Now the rules for setting is getting looser now. So where does
For the first contact, and let me tell you what we go by, just so you all don't have to be afraid of this. We go by the level of play. When I'm calling a middle school match, sometimes I just hold my whistle so I don't accidentally blow it. If the ball kind of goes in the direction she's trying to send it in and it goes in that vicinity and she didn't pick it up and throw it, I'm like, okay, that's good, keep learning, okay? If we're doing a 3A match and it's big, pretty big 3A schools and they know what they're doing, I'm gonna call it, they should know how to play. If it's a 5A match, any 5A match, they should know how to play, okay? So we look at the skill set of the kids, okay? If we go, think about this. If you walk in a gym and your team is really good and you're playing a team that's not that good, we gotta find a bar in the middle there somewhere. I've had coaches, some of you that have really good teams, walk up to me and say when they realize who they're playing, call my girls a regular game. Because they realize I'm going to let some go so the other team can play. Now, so setting a bar is a bit of an art of officiating. We try to set the bar so that it's a fair competition. However, the team that has the better skills is probably going to win. Okay, so when you say, is it looser, it sometimes depends on the level of play you have. If I look down on both sets, you know, I've seen a team go through 2 setters, and this team went through, and all 4 of them can't set. As a referee, I'm like, oh boy. And it's a 4A match, I'm like, whew. Sometimes we'll just say, oh well, they should know better. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Okay, so that's when, you know, you may have to, coaches, you may have to really work on, get one good setter out of there. We got to have somebody that can set the ball well. If it's a new program, a smaller school, like I said, if it's a middle schools, they're learning. We allow them more, like they see the big girls do a dump over their shoulder into the corner. When they're in middle school, when they're on Z team, I had a girl do that and went behind her. And she looked down at it, and she looked up at me, and I went, we're just going to call that down. You know, she clearly they weren't getting that point. You know, she went, huh. And their teammate goes, you have to lift it up and over, up and over. So we try to allow for that. We understand you're trying to teach your kids. When do we expect them to know what they're doing? Varsity. Every class. By the time they get to varsity, they should know what they're doing, okay? We might give you one warning at the beginning of the season on being out of alignment. Varsity will give you 1 or 2 at the beginning of the season. By the 3rd week, we're calling it. They should know where they're standing. Yes?
Jewelry-wise, a lot of girls have their nose pierced, ears.
That's unfortunate.
It's no, they kind of do the plastic.
That's so unfortunate.
It's nothing, right?
No spacers, nothing.
No spacers, no nothing. They need to come out there as God had them come to the world. Nothing was attached to them, okay? Yes?
Headband, or a big trend, the headbands that tie behind your head. Last season, I had only one time the referees call it.
It was a headband, soft material?
It's like the athletic material.
Soft material, less than 2 inches, yes. Okay? They can't go out there with this big old wide thing around, okay? Less than 2 inches. Any other questions? No. This is why probably, it might have been a basketball ref. Basketball, they have to match. Volleyball, we don't consider that part of the uniform, so they can have different ones on. Okay? Anybody? Yes?
How about the uniforms? It's been changing more on solids and, you know, an inch, different, you know.
Okay, here's the deal, people. In the front, you got a number. It needs to be here. Okay? 2 inches down from a V-neck, 5 inches down from the seam. It's got to be a minimum 4 inches. On the back, people, you have a number. The numbers, you have to have the number in the middle. It can't be down towards the bottom of their uniform because they might tuck it in or something. This is what we're looking for the libero. The libero must contrast. Here's what we need you to do when you're trying to figure out the contrast. Don't put them on your couch and stand there and go, yeah, I can tell the difference. Put them in your gym and then walk a court away. Now see if you can read the number. Can you tell the difference between the colors? Okay? Sometimes when you're looking at them close together, yeah, these look okay. It's when the further away you get, all of a sudden I had a team in Roswell. Their number just disappeared. The further away they got. And how did I tell the coach that? I said, come here. He came over to me, I go, and one of his kids was standing a court away. And I said, what's her number? He goes, who is that? I go, no. What's that number? The number was less than an inch. It was so thin, the further away they got, the number just kind of bled into, you couldn't see it anymore. So be aware of the size of your number. Be aware on the contrast of the liberos. The thing I want to tell you, you guys are going to be sending a request to Tammy. Alyssa's going to be there to help her. Is this okay, this jersey with this jersey? Note when we tell you it's okay, we mean that jersey with that one. If we say, yes, the libero can wear that one with that when the players are wearing that one, we are approving that combination. Don't think we're approving this libero jersey to wear with every other jersey you have. Because this is what happens. We approve them and they've got a black libero jersey and the team's in white. Okay? So the libero wears a black jersey again. Now the team is wearing dark green. That no longer is a good combination. That's not contrasting. Think of it this way, dark and light. One of them needs to be dark, one of them needs to be light. Some of y'all come out with medium. Powder blue and light gray, they're the same, okay? So think of it that way. Can you look over, this is a libero, you're supposed to be able to go like that and see that that's the libero going in. I've seen games where the libero tracker wasn't even tracking the person because she didn't know they had a libero. And all of a sudden when she realized it, oh! She's suddenly writing down the lineup. So make sure it's contrasting, okay? We've gotten better, I think, on uniforms, right? So every year, listen, I go, maybe we won't get any uniform questions.
When in doubt, just send us a picture.
Pictures.
We can let you know.
Okay?
Just when in doubt, send us a picture.
Any other questions? That was the one we had uniform questions, ball handling questions, anything else? Were you good? People have a great year. If you have something out of the ordinary from the officials at your area, send Tammy a little email so she can get on it and we can see what's happening in your neck of the woods, all right? Have a great season, people.